Hey everybody, it's Mark Pattison, former NFL player, now climbing the 7 summits, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Finding Your Summit, all about people overcoming adversity and finding their way. Okay, look, 7-8 years ago, I had to step into the fear and put a big ass goal out there, and so I decided to start climbing all these crazy mountains around the world. It's been an absolute amazing journey. And, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I've actually done 6 of the 7. I've actually been on Denali twice. I've been on climbed successfully Kilimanjaro twice. But now it's Mount Everest, the biggest boy on the block, 29,000 plus. And I'm headed over there April 2020, and I'm totally keyed up. And I'm keyed up because I've been doing all this preparation. I train like an absolute bear. And really putting myself in a position of success. I'm going to be climbing with one of the top climbing outfitters in the world. Excited about that. And just the mountain has fascinated me for years, I'm sure like others, but really excited to do so. And so if I can actually pull this thing off, I'd be the first NFL player to do so. And so as we speak today, there's not that many first in the world. So I look forward to tackling that. Okay, so that's one. 2 is I totally appreciate the listen on these different podcasts. I really do. And it's been an amazing journey, as I said, from not just interviewing these people, but being on the other side of the mic and really taking in their incredible stories of doing amazing things. And look, we all need to be inspired. And so if I can help provide and find more people that meet that criteria, all the better. And we all need that motivation, and we all need those words of encouragement that you can make it back relevant to your own situation, and then plow forward in whatever endeavor you are trying to do. Okay, so I appreciate that. And if you want to find out anything that I have going on, you can do so at markpattisonnfl.com. I've got a book out now called Finding Your Summit, go figure. And it is essentially the playbook to what I had learned from my Hall of Fame coaches on how to emerge and do some great things in your life. It doesn't have to be mountain climbing, of course. It can be anything, but it's a plug-in that you take on these different things, these different goals, these different strategies that I've set forth, that they set forth for me. And good things can come from that. Okay. Also on the website, you can find out more about my expedition. Obviously, I'll be going to Mount Everest, and we'll have more information about that coming up. There's an e-learning course, and of course the podcast. And when you go to the podcast, you will find an iTunes tab. And I would be so grateful if you go in and you'd rate and review. Now, it all has to do with visibility, popularity of podcasts, because there's so many podcasts out there today that it's so easy to get lost and like, where's Finding Your Summit? And I really do believe these stories are really amazing and incredible, and can really give a lift to those people who really need it. And even if you don't, we all need to be motivated and inspired by other people to keep going. So if you'd go in and do that, I would be really, really appreciative. Okay? So let's go listen to the pod. It's going to be awesome. Here we go. Hey everybody, it's Mark Pattison, and I am back with another great episode of Finding Your Summit, all about people overcoming adversity and finding their way. And this week, I wanted to open up with a kind of a very telling quote from the actor Jim Carrey. And he said, if you are not in the moment, you're either looking forward to uncertainty or back to pain and regret. And I think this guy this week answers that call. His name is Coach Jim Johnson. He is broadcasting all the way from Rochester, New York, beaming here from Sun Valley, Idaho. So let's first of all give Jim a big welcome. Jim, how you doing?
Doing great. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, so let me just get this a little bit of a setup so that the audience has a clear picture of kind of who you are. I didn't know who you were before that J.G. Burton had introduced us, and you guys must have connected somewhere in the tree of public speaking out there on the circuit. But essentially, you were a coach, longtime coach, over 40 years. And you've had a lot of inspirational kids come through your program, but no one more inspirational than a kid referred as J Mac, who was a manager on your team, and ultimately got into the game. And the reason why I wanted to start off with that quote was just because in sports, and as you know, I have a sports background as well, that if you're not in the moment, you lose sight of what things are actually going on. And we'll get into that magical moment that you played. But tell me just quickly about your coaching career, where it started. And, you've been at this for a long time now. And certainly, I'm sure you've been inspired by a lot of people.
Yeah, I certainly have. I actually got into coaching. My father was my role model. I actually played high school basketball for him, and then went into college and decided that I wanted to follow in his footsteps. So I was a teacher and a coach ended up doing it for 35 years and enjoyed it immensely. I retired a few years ago, but so he was certainly my first inspiration. And then actually, my dream when I got out of college was to become a head high school basketball coach, and actually that dream came to fruition pretty quickly. After 3 years as an assistant, I became a head coach at a high school close to where I grew up in a town called Greece. And I coached for 1 year, thought I knew everything about coaching, and led that team to a 1-18 record, and they let me go. So it was a extremely humbling experience, but it ended up being, in reflection, probably one of the best experiences from my professional career, because of two reasons. Number one, it made me realize that I had a lot to learn about leadership and coaching. And number two, is it really motivated to me when you have a setback like that I wanted to prove that school wrong for letting me go. And I will tell you that for the next 30-something years I coached, that burn never went away. And then I really started to putting a lot of work into my own personal growth to develop as a much better leader and a coach. And my first 10 years, it was quite a struggle in coaching, but fortunately, I kept working at it, and things started to get better. And the last 23 years of my coaching career, we never had a losing season. We ended up winning a number of championships. And so it was a lot of trials and tribulations, but certainly a lot of rewards, and certainly the opportunity to work with young people to try to get them to work together in a team, and also to develop some life skills they could take from being part of our program, something that was very special to me.
That's awesome. So, what we're talking about is 428 career victories in high school. That's amazing. And it's just also amazing because it can become a grind. And I think going back to that first coaching job, that first head coaching job that you had, we had 17 consecutive losses and you were fired. I think also what that really teaches you is about perseverance, and then also equates with that the passion. Do you really have the guts? Do you really have the tools? Do you really have the oomph to stay on it? And the reason why I say that is because if you don't have a strong why, it's so easy to flip and quit. It's just like, what the heck? Who cares? You got to be driven. You got to want it. And certainly you did. And you came back, and you came back strong. And like you said, really understanding and getting to a higher level of leadership so that you can impart that knowledge on what the most important things are to your students, your kids that you taught and you led along the way. You've got this great quote, which I love: think bigger, lead better, and win more. And I think those first two things is you got to think big in order to achieve large things. And you also have to be a great leader of men around you, whether that's your colleagues, my teammates that I used to play with. Everybody has to be accountable to get to that end goal.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I want to get into this special moment, and this kid's name is Jason McElwain. And I know you've touched a lot of souls, along the road. The kids on the team called him J-Mac, but why don't you give us a little bit of a setup? Because for the audience that's out there, this is a moment in time. And again, it goes back to that quote that I just read by Jim Carrey, that really was in the moment. It happened. It was totally unexpected. This kid just absolutely caught fire. We'll get into that in just a minute, but it also ended up winning the SB, emotional moment of the year or something. And I mean, wow. I mean, I mean, just watching this clip that I saw on YouTube, you know, it almost brought a tear to my eye, just seeing this Rudy type kid just overcome and then do something really special. But why don't you give us a setup of kind of what happened?
Sure. So I'll give you a little backdrop in the sense that I had become, as far as the wins and losses, and we started to win league titles, but often in coaching, you're measured by how you do in the postseason. And there we were falling short, and we kept going in our postseason. We had a lot of good teams, but for whatever reason, in our area, it's called the sectional championship. And, it's a pretty big deal, and it's one of the dreams, I think, for pretty much every coach in this area. In almost any sport to win a sectional championship. So in 2003, 2004, a young man came into our program. He is on the autism spectrum. He's also learning disabled. And he was a little guy back then. He's much bigger now, but he was about 5'5", maybe 100 pounds, and tried out for our JV basketball team. And I knew very little about the autism spectrum at that point. And his name was Jason McElwain. And I actually tagged him the name J-Mac, which stuck because I could not pronounce his last name. I kept butchering it. So I told him one day, I said, how about if we call you J-Mac? And he liked it. So it was kind of a win-win. But I learned so much from this young man because although he wasn't very talented as a basketball player, he had such a big heart and he had such passion to help our program in any way he could. So he didn't make the team as a JV player, and he was our JV manager, but he also would stay for the varsity games. And then between his sophomore and junior year and his junior and senior year, he tried out for the varsity, the team I coached for 2 consecutive years, did not make the team, but was so loyal. And what was amazing is he would come to everything, all our off-season workouts, our league play. He was just a big part of us. And so his senior year, when he didn't make the team, I told him that, I wanted to keep him as manager, but I was going to give him a gift that year. And that was in 2005, 2006 season. And that was as I was going to give him a uniform for our final home game, which we call senior night. And I was hoping to get him in the game, and he was pretty excited about that idea. Well, the intriguing thing of that season is we were supposed to have a really good team. We had lost in the sectional tournament 3 consecutive years getting into the semifinals, and Jason's dream was to help him as a senior, finally win that championship. And unfortunately, our season ended up having a lot of adversity. I wrote a book called The Coach in a Miracle where I talk about it. It's too long of a story, but we ended up having a tremendous amount of internal strife, and our team was really struggling. And I had to have a heart-to-heart meeting at Christmas, because we were playing in this championship game of a Christmas tournament, and we were playing very poorly. And I challenged them, and I also opened my ears and got a lot of feedback. And that night we played a really good team, and we lost to an overtime, and it showed what we could do. And then it kind of really changed our season. Our mindset got much stronger, and we built some momentum, and we won 8 of our next 9 games going into our final game, which was senior night. And senior night's always a very special night. I was a head coach for 30 years, so I had 30 of those. But that night was profoundly touching to see J-Mac now, instead of in his white shirt and black tie, he's now donning number 52 that was way too big, but he didn't care. And to see him embrace his parents before the game in uniform was a memory I will always cherish. Well, the game begins, and if you go on the video, ESPN did a wonderful about 5-minute video on it. But in that, we had a really good student body following that year, and they start chanting in the opening tap, "We want J-Mac," I guess, just in case I forgot. And so, I went into the game and thinking, one would be the best. And the one idea I had is I wanted to give him enough time so when he got in, he could actually score a basket. So I put him with just over 4 minutes to go in the game. And his first shot was a 3-pointer from the right corner, and he missed it by like 6 feet. As I kid people, I know you're not supposed to pray in the public schools, but I was praying, "Dear God, please help him get 1 basket." And then the next possession, which was not on any of the videos, he actually missed a short shot from about 10 feet, but it hit the rim. So I thought, all right, God's starting to listen. We're getting closer. And then the third possession, we had the ball. Jason got the ball in the right wing behind the 3-point arc, and he let it go. And it went in, and the place just went bananas. And I thought, oh, my gosh, God must be a basketball fan. Not only has Jason scored, he's got a 3-pointer. It can't get any better than this, right? And then as I kid people, because Jason's boyhood idol was Kobe Bryant, and literally he turned into Kobe for the next 3 minutes, and he just started making shot after shot. And when the smoke had cleared, he had scored 20 points in about 3 minutes, including 6 3-points. In fact, he tied our school record at that time for 3-pointers in a game. Of course, he did it in about 3 minutes. And the ironic thing is, you said that he won an ESPY for the greatest sports moment of the year. And one of the 4 finalists for that ESPY was actually Kobe Bryant. He had scored 81 points in an NBA game, and he actually beat Kobe out for the ESPY. So it was pretty neat. And then 3 weeks, probably 3.5 weeks after that game, we actually won our first sectional title, which kind of broke the 4-minute mile for me. Because we won that. And then Jason actually, after that year, graduated, but a couple years later, he came back and volunteered and helped me. And we ended up winning 6 championships together. So it was quite a run. And as I kid people, for a small fee, I will run him out to you because he seems to be a good luck charm. But that was certainly the greatest learning thing was, I talked to our teams a lot about serving others, as I call it servant leadership. And that was the essence, because of all the issues we had. When Jason came in, I wasn't sure how the kids were going to respond. I knew they liked him, but out of their own hearts, he actually was the only one that shot in the last 4 minutes. In fact, I still see Jason a lot. I kid him. I go, Jason, I'm still looking for your first assist. You never passed the ball once. But it was certainly a wonderful night that, I will cherish for the rest of my life. And the one thing I will say is that I really felt I did it for the right reasons. I wanted to give this young man a chance. We had no media there. It was not set up, although I've seen some ripple effect from that game, which, I'm proud of. But in fact, the only duty I have with the media is I had to call the game in for a box score to our newspaper. And they actually didn't make that much of a deal about it. And that's where I thought it was going to end. But what I didn't know is Jason's speech pathologist, his first game he'd ever come to, and he was so touched the next day at school, he called one of our local TV stations and asked them to borrow the video for me, and they did. And from there, it just exploded. And within a few days, it seemed like everybody in the world was calling. It was incredible.
Hey, this pod is sponsored by Laird Superfood. So many products to choose from your InstaFuel, your coffee, your tea, your smoothies. And I love the superfood creamer and use the hydration powders like the beets, the coconut, the matcha, the turmeric to mix all into my 7 Summit smoothie. And it's so good. Log on to lairdsuperfood.com and get your 20% off when you use the code MARKP20. Okay? So get your Laird Superfood, and I guarantee it will help fuel your journey.
Well, yeah, absolute incredible moment. And again, we're going to put this in the show notes so people can actually see this video. Couple questions. I want to break that down a little bit. So you're going along, you're in this game, you've had some adversity with your team, but now it's important to you for this kid who's put everything into this program to get his opportunity to go up there for a couple minutes. And, a lot of that in many cases at the end of basketball games or football games, it's just kind of that I'm losing the word right now, but that time when the score really doesn't matter and people are just going through the motions and really waiting that clock out. Were the defenders, were they playing him hard, or were they just letting him fly? And I don't want to take anything away from him, and we're going to get into that in just a second. But from a defender standpoint, were they on him, hardcore, or were they just kind of walking through the motions and letting him
I definitely had that question asked me, and I won't say that they were like right in his face, but they weren't like, just letting him go. I will tell you, because in any of the videos you don't see this one shot, but the only time that they absolutely let him go, he actually missed a 3-pointer. There was a long rebound. One of his teammates grabbed it and handed it back to Jason, and that was the only time the other team just really let him go. So he dribbled in, he had a wide open layup, and he missed it. So that kind of gives you in fact, his 6, he had 7 baskets, and 6 of them were 3-pointers. The other basket, his foot was on the line for 3-pointers. So he's literally probably 2 inches from having 7 threes, which would have broke the school record at the time. So.
Well, yeah, and the other part of that too is that last shot that he threw up, I mean, that was legit NBA 3-point level. I mean, that was
Right.
way out there. So let me ask you this. Did you ever see, and again, you and I are talking basketball right now, and we're going through this. And unless you've seen the video, you're not going to really understand the impact of what this kid did. And that's why my hope is everybody will listen and then in tune go, and their curiosity will make them hit that button that shows the video and shows this special magical moment that this kid went through. From his point of view, or actually from your point of view, did you ever see any glimpses of this in practice? This guy's out before shooting the ball around and him launching these monster shots from way out and these things draining in.
Well, I will answer that twofold. I saw Jason play a number of times over the 3 years because, as I said, he came to all our off season. So for me to say that I thought he would have a chance to do what he did, I'd be lying to you. There's no way. I mean, I'd seen him play. But on the other side, I will say this: Jason was a worker, and he was one of those people that after practice, he didn't go home. He was helping other players. He was getting extra shots. So the one thing I always, because I always would talk to our teams about deserving victory, and deserving victory, one of the things is we always talked about, are we working as hard as we possibly can? And the one thing I'm very proud to share with you about Jason is he was very diligent and trying to be the best that he could be in any way he could help the team. So, yes, I was certainly surprised. I mean, my book's called A Coach in a Miracle because I truly believe I lived a miracle. But at the other side of it, certainly Jason spent a lot of time on his shooting. So, as he said, he got as hot as a pistol, and he got into his zone, and, the rest is history.
Well, I can tell you that even on my best day, with nobody guarding me, I could not drain 20 points plus, most of them 3-pointers, on my best day, let alone in 3 minutes and 12 seconds. I mean, it's insane. And I would love, and maybe you have an answer for this, I would love to get inside his head and ask the question, like, how did you get into that zone, in that space where the basket probably looked like it was 50 feet around, and everything that you were throwing up, you had the confidence. And by the way, for the listener, the crowd was going absolutely berserk along with the bench. I don't know what you were doing, but I mean, it was just pandemonium in this place. But how do you think he got his mindset into this zone? And again, I'm sure for him, this trickles back to probably a dream he had when he was a little kid, and then kept getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back because he didn't make the team,
right,
the team, and all these varsity. And now he gets his magical moment. And for him to focus and laser in, and again, going back to that quote of being really into that moment and not worry about whatever happened in the past, and you don't really care about what's going on in the future, only that this is a big opportunity. Where do you think that came from?
Well, the two things that jump out to me, one is that he did spend a lot of time working on his shooting. So, I'm sure in drills and things, there were times where he saw the ball go in pretty consistently. So I don't believe that was like the first time that he, ever gotten hot before. So I think that, I think he had some background because he had spent so much time on shooting. The other thing, we spent a lot of time in the mental aspect of the game, and we did numerous imagery sessions that he always attended and participated. So I'm sure, as you mentioned, it was probably a dream he's had since he was a young kid. But Jason's the kind of young man. I think he probably spent many a nights visualizing and seeing himself making shots. So.
Yeah. No. Well, the other thing that I love about this, and this is your gift to not just him, but your other players that you had over the years, but I think really gets amplified by this word called empowerment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this kid going out there and doing something that was basically impossible to do, he did it. He gets, literally carried out the field in the gym. And so from his perspective, he's going to be able to carry that moment the rest of his life. And the question is, what else can he do? What else can others do?
Yeah, you know what? I'm Reshare that. I'm a little confused on what direction you're going with that.
Oh, I'm just saying the empowerment. I'm just saying that.
Yeah. Okay. As far
right?
as yeah, because I think the one thing that that he did very well is we allowed him to just spend a lot of time working with our players. So we empowered him as almost like an assistant coach, not just as a manager. And so so he did a lot of work with our players on shooting. In fact, he spends a lot of time still to this day working with players on, not only their basketball skills, but also their physical skills. So it's something that he had tremendous passion he loves the game of basketball, and he was a student of the game. I mean, he used to go scouting with me. He just loved it, everything. In fact, I kidded over the years. One time I went through a scouting report, and he knew two kids from the other team that a kid got in trouble at school the day before, and another kid got hurt in practice. I had no idea. I'm like, how the heck did you find that out? He goes, I have my sources. But he was just a real student of the game, and I think that I think really helped him as far as being prepared for that moment.
Well, there's no question that his dream came true and more. And I read that you've got something about the 6 keys to making your dreams come true. And so I'm sure these are things that you've learned over the years, of things that you have seen from kids, takeaways, other coaches that you have learned from. Can you give me a couple nuggets on what some of those keys might be?
Sure. So I think the first thing is really finding your passion, because when you discover that passion, what I found is when you really love something, although, there's certainly a lot of work involved, it doesn't feel as much like work because you have such joy and you're so driven to have success. And, for Jason and I, basketball was a game that we were extremely passionate about, and we could never get enough of it. We were always watching it and trying to figure out how we could better our team. So I think that's really important, is that, I've heard this, but I think there's a lot of truth to it, is when you find something you're very passionate about, you're going to invest a lot of time in it. And even though some people call that work, you don't feel like it's work, but yet because you invest a lot of time and energy, you're most likely going to get very good at it. And, that's where I think it all starts. And then the other thing that the second one I talk about is really understanding your mission. You've already brought up your why, and I know that was a big turning point in my life, is when I developed my own personal mission statement, and because I really developed clarity of what kind of person I wanted to be, and that really came across to my players. I really knew what I stood for, what I believed in, what I valued, and what we also had our team mission statement, which was to develop winners on and off the court. And we would talk about that every single day. What does it take to be a winner on the court? It's not just the game. The scoreboard is also, are you a great teammate? Are you someone that can be a good sport? How can you handle losses as well as wins? And then off the court, are you going to be the best student you can be? Are you going to be a contributor in our community and be a great citizen? So those are the things we were really trying to develop. And then the third one I always talk about, something everyone knows about, but for all the research I've done, is many people fall short, and that is understanding your goals. I used to give my team a quote every day, and one of my favorite goals, two quotes, is think it, ink it. In other words, write it down, because most people don't write their goals down. And then the other one is you can't hit a target you don't have. So having clarity of what is most important as far as your goals. And we spent a lot of time with our players on our goals. And then one of the other ones I talk about is perseverance, which Jason was the essence of that. As I mentioned, I never had any young man in my basketball program that ever tried out 3 straight years if he didn't make the team. And that's why he just became special to me, in the fact that, he just never gave up on his dream. and his love, it really carried over, and that's such a huge thing. And the other thing I talk about is how to be an effective team player. And I mentioned that I wasn't sure how the players were going to respond when he came into the game, but then in reflection, it made a lot of sense to me because Jason had given so much to them. That's a way they could give back to him, and that's, I believe, how the world works. That the more you give, the more you tend to receive.
So another thing you talked about too was your BHAG and big, hairy, audacious goal, and tell me why that's so important to you. I mean, it's obviously it's very important to me, and I like to try to think big, and then you can achieve great things. But from your side of the world, when you talk about your own BHAG, what was that? Becoming a high school basketball coach tell me what has been your thing. You think it, you yank it. What have you put down on paper?
Well, I write my goals down every single day. So, I mean, I have some goals that are, I still have not accomplished. I mean, certainly some of my big basketball goals was that, I wanted to be a varsity coach. I wrote all that down. I wanted to be a successful varsity coach. I wanted to make an impact on and off the court. And certainly, I wanted the opportunity to coach a team to a sectional championship. I was fortunate that we were able to do that 6 times. Not just once. I had a BHAG to win a state championship, and we fell a little short. We lost in the state finals one year. But, but I think the thing is, I don't think every goal can be so big that it overwhelms you. But I think if you have one or two that makes you stretch, and I think you just become a better person by what you have to put into it, even sometimes when it doesn't come to fruition. But a lot of that comes out, like just the fact that I think I became a better leader and a better servant. Early in my career, I'm not sure I would have put Jason into the game. My thought process was different when I was much younger. And when I got clear about, what my personal mission was, I really started to change how I approach things. And I think that was major for me personally.
Hey, I'm excited to introduce our new partner of the pod, Cascade Mountain Tech, an outdoor brand from the Pacific Northwest, which is where I'm from, that offers a great selection of trekking poles. They're incredible. Super coolers, camp chairs, LED lighting, and much more. Right now, Cascade Mountain Tech is offering 15% off your first order by using the code FindingYourSummit15. That is, FindingYourSummit15 when you check out at CascadeMountainTech.com.
Yeah, I think also too, when you put something like out there, it really is about the journey. As we talked about before we went on here, I'm out there trying to climb the 7 summits. I've now climbed 6 of the 7. I've got Everest waiting on me next April 2020. And I mean, talk about a BHAG, but it's the daily grind of going through the process of training, of researching the mountain, having the right equipment. It's doing all the little things, which you really do have to have that love for, or you're going to quit. You're going to go backwards because things get in your way. But on the other side of that too, stepping into the fear, going after something that you really don't know that much about, learning your way, meeting new people, experiencing new cultures, and in your case, by putting out that BHAG of becoming a high school coach, then you have these little miracles that drop into your life. Like Jason, and you get to experience those things. And that's just a wonderful gift. And then you can impart just more knowledge and experience, as you age. And certainly some of these things like this podcast I'm doing right now, I would have never thought in a million years that would have been part of the BHAG. It was just about climbing mountains. But now I get the opportunity of interacting with guys like you and being inspired and learning and seeing what you've done to be and involve yourself in the lives of others and impact that change. So, I mean, it's just, you never know unless you put yourself out there, what little nuggets are going to come your way.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're absolutely right, though. I think when you develop a process and take it as a journey, and I think that's when you really, there's no real pure destination, because it just continues. And I think as you accomplish some things, then you'll appreciate this. You want to climb a bigger mountain, it's like you're doing. And we all have that in our own way. It's not necessarily that you're climbing a mountain, but it's your own mountain, and from a metaphor standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about your journey going forward. You mentioned at the very beginning of the pod that you recently retired from coaching, and now you're sitting out there outside of New York, and your path forward. I do know that you public speak around the country. Is that your core passion now, to go out and spread the word of leadership and empowerment and these other things that you talk about? Or do you have some other many goals out there that you want to go after as well?
Well, that's certainly a big part of my life. I love presenting in front of people and trying to make an impact with my message. So certainly that's a big part of what I'm doing from a professional standpoint. There's certainly other things that I want to contribute. I've been involved with different situations in the autism world that I'd like to stay involved and actually even continue to grow in trying to help people on the autism spectrum. So that's a big thing. And you know what? The other thing is I just want to continue the journey of keep growing myself as a person and trying to help others. And if I could do that in various ways, whether it's my speaking or getting involved with various charities or just finding different ways that I can make a difference in the world is what I'm really about these days.
Well, I mean, gosh, to me, that's paying it forward. And that's something that once you get to a certain spot in your life, that affords you the perspective and also affords you the time to really, as you said, go out there and help others, give of your time, and do whatever you can do to inspire others to do great things as well. So tell me where people can find you, because I know, because I did the research, I saw a bunch of videos, you have some really dynamic topics that you have out there. And if somebody wants to bring you in, hire you as a speaker, where might they be able to find you?
Yeah, so my website, CoachJimJohnson.com, I do work with a lady that manages me. Her name's Kate Holgate, and she's we have a great relationship. We've been working together for about 7 or 8 years, and we do a lot of things to try to share what I've learned. We do a monthly newsletter that's complimentary. We do a weekly blog. I've done a lot of video series. We're in the process of doing a few other things as well. So, we're trying to find different ways that, we can spread the message that I believe that can help people. So, but my website, Coach Jim Johnson, is a lot of different things. You can also purchase a signed copy of my book on there. And so, we're trying to, right now we're also working on, we did one webinar back. I do another short presentation called the 10 questions all effective leaders should be able to answer. And we did a webinar on that. We're going to do another webinar on recruiting and retaining and building a team. And we haven't decided on a date yet, but that's kind of our next venture to give back to people.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, listen, I sincerely appreciate you coming on the pod. I know that, again, we were connected by JJ, and, I don't know. I mean, I like I said, I had no idea what I was walking into. And then I started clicking through and I saw this video and I saw your relationship with this kid and what you've done for him and really what he's done for you, and really super inspiring, I think, to me. Well, for sure. And anybody that watches that video will be inspired and really relate, I think, identify with the message that you have out there.
Well, thank you, Mark. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I hope we get a chance to meet someday. And I know you said with Montana, now you're in Idaho, so I've been in neither one of those states, so they're both on my bucket list. So I'll keep you posted if I get you out your way.
Yeah, well, get in your van and come on out here, and we'd love to see you. All right, well, listen, I appreciate it. Great conversation. He is Jim Johnson, the coach. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you so much for dropping in and listening to another amazing episode of Finding Your Summit. Truly incredible people doing spectacular things in life, and I hope you were inspired just like I continue to be. Look, I am super grateful that you came in and subscribed to this pod, and would be more than appreciative if you gave the show a ratings and review on iTunes. Trust me, it matters. And then also go share it with your friends, of course. Okay, until next week, go do something great. And remember, it takes a little more to make a champion. Bye. Hey, and thank you so much for listening to the Find Your Summit podcast. We are so glad to have you along for this journey. And if you enjoy the show, please tell a friend, share it on iTunes, spread it to the planet. We're looking to broadcast this to every person that is out there because, as you know, everybody has their own summit that they're going after. Okay, if you're looking to follow my journey, you can find that through my social links on markpattisonnfl.com. That's Mark, M-A-R-K, Pattison, P-A-T-T-I-S-O-N, NFL.com. So, until the next podcast, just remember, clear eyes, full hearts, and remember, it takes a little more to make a champion, so make it happen. Thank you. Bye.